8:45. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. Here is the news edited by Danushka Madhawala and read by Indrani Senanayaka. The headlines. Motion to appoint select committee to investigate infringement of parliamentary privileges. Pakistan PM thanks Sri Lankan President for support in IMF deal. 5-member committee has been appointed to look into health sector issues. More than 500,000 hectares of paddy fields cultivated in the yellow season due to the government's new fertilizer policy. Commissioner General of Motor Traffic said that the new driving licenses can now be obtained without delay. Over 290,000 people applied to get passports online within a month. In foreign news, South Korea tunnel horror brings home climate fears. And in sports news, Pakistan bowl out Sri Lanka in the second day of the first test. A proposal has been put forward to appoint a special select committee to investigate infringement of parliamentary privileges and privileges of members of parliament. It is scheduled to be submitted to the House tomorrow. General Secretary to the Parliament, Kushani Rohanadira, said that this decision was made by the Business Committee, which met today under the leadership of Speaker Mahinda Yapa Abewardena. The committee will investigate incidents pertaining to the Election Commission and propose the suggestions to the House. The Parliament will meet tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif has telephoned Sri Lankan President Ranil Wickremesinghe today and discussed with him matters relating to the current economic situation of both the countries. Premier Sharif thanked the Sri Lankan President for supporting Pakistan with regard to the country's agreement with the International Monetary Fund, the High Commission of Pakistan in Colombo said. In the phone call, PM Shehbaz acknowledged the role played by Sri Lanka as a friend and a well-wisher of Pakistan. He paid tributes to Sri Lanka for its role in promoting regional peace and development. He also hoped that both Pakistan and Sri Lanka would come out of the economic crisis very soon. President Wickremesinghe congratulated Prime Minister Sharif for reaching the staff-level agreement with the IMF. He also thanked Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif for expressing good wishes for his country. Health Minister Kehelia Rambukwella has appointed a committee in order to investigate into the recent deaths at government hospitals which are suspected to have occurred owing to the complications from certain substandard medicines. The committee, chaired by Professor Chandima Jeevandara, comprises of 5 members. This news comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. We continue with local news. Minister of Agriculture Mahinda Amariveera said that as a result of the new fertilizer policy of President Ranil Wickremesinghe, 512,000 hectares of paddy fields were cultivated in the yellow season after 10 years. The minister added that 80% of the nation's agricultural production is expected to be produced by 2025 as part of President Ranil Wickremesinghe's strategy to modernize the agricultural industry. The use of contemporary technologies in agriculture can improve production of fruits and vegetables intended for export and reduce the amount of agricultural crops that are imported, Minister Amariveera added. He expressed these views today during a press conference themed One Year of Progress held at the Presidential Media Centre. Commissioner General of Motor Traffic Nishanta Anuruddha Veerasinghe said that the new driving licenses can be obtained without delay. Measures have been taken to issue driving licenses replacing temporary permits. He added that those cards will be printed systematically. Meanwhile, Minister of Public Security Tiran Alas said that 29,578 people have applied for obtaining passports online in the last month. Out of this, 5,294 have submitted applications for one-day service and 24,285 for general service. Minister Tiranala said the Immigration and Immigration Department has received 29,579 online applications for passports within the last 30 days after the program of issuing passports by the divisional secretariats through the online system commenced on the 15th of last month. That ends the local segment of news.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
The Ministry of Public Administration has revised the concessions given by the government to take long leave with no pay to be spent in or out of the country without causing any prejudice to the seniority and pension. KDN Ranjit Asoka, Secretary, Ministry of Public Administration, Home Affairs, Provincial Councils and Local Government, has issued the relevant circular stating the change. The Secretary of the Ministry of Public Administration told local media yesterday that this amendment was made based on the complaints received from other officials who are currently working that the arrangement is unfair, as those who are currently working in the public sector but are on leave will get seniority even during their period of leave.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
We now take a look at Watchlight. The Department of Excise says that it has arrested a total of 20,121 individuals during raids carried out across the island during the first 6 months of this year. The arrested include 2,687 females, according to the Excise Department. The relevant apprehensions have been made through raids carried out by 57 excise stations and 5 excise special operation units and the Excise Narcotic Bureau throughout the island, it added. We now take a look at world news. First, the headlines. South Korea tunnel horror brings home climate fears. Russia officially pulls out of Ukraine grain deal. Australian sailor and his dog survived 2 months at sea. As hundreds of rescue workers comb the muddied waters of a South Korean underpass, the stagnant rainwater, once up to the ceiling, now only covers their knees. They will not give up. There is one person still missing. It's been more than 48 hours since extreme rainfall caused a river bank to break and water suddenly and forcefully filled the major underpass, stopping vehicles dead. 13 bodies have so far been brought out of the tunnel in the central mountainous regions of Cheongju. Rescuers have CCTV footage of a terrified missing driver trying to escape their submerged car, but there is no sign of their body yet. As they search on, another car is winched out, its back window smashed out by the force of the water. Russia has notified the UN, Turkey and Ukraine that it will not renew a crucial grain deal that allowed Ukraine to export grain through the Black Sea. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said the agreements had reached a de facto end today. The deal let cargo ships pass through the Black Sea from several ports, but Moscow said it would return to the agreement if its conditions were met. Russian President Vladimir Putin has long complained that parts of the deal allowing the export of Russian food and fertilizers has not been honored. In particular, he said grain has not been supplied to poorer countries, which was a condition of the agreement. Russia also repeatedly complained that Western sanctions were restricting its own agricultural exports. Mr. Putin repeatedly threatened to pull out of the agreement. An Australian sailor who survived 2 months in the Pacific Ocean by eating raw fish and drinking rainwater is stable and very well, a doctor says. Sydney resident Tim Shaddock, 51, and his dog Bella left Mexico for French Polynesia in April, but their boat was damaged by a storm several weeks later. They were rescued by a trawler this week after a helicopter spotted them. The doctor aboard the tuna trawler told Australia's 9 News that the man had normal vital signs. Mr. Shaddock embarked on his more than 6,000-kilometer long voyage from Mexico City of La Paz, but soon became stranded after his vessel's electronics were cut off by bad weather. It left the sailor and his dog drifting in the vast and hostile North Pacific Ocean. They were finally found him off Mexico's coast 2 months later. He was far leaner and sporting an overgrown beard. To end this bulletin of world news, the headlines again. South Korea tunnel horror brings home climate fears. Russia officially pulls out of Ukraine grain deal. Australian sailor and his dog survived 2 months at sea. That ends this bulletin of world news.
Development News is brought to you by
Vacancies for women from Deshak Sri Lanka for housemaids in Kuwait, Oman and Saudi Arabia for ages 23 to 58 years. Contact number 037 7500 500.
Alliance Air has commenced daily commercial flights between Chennai and Sri Lanka's Jaffna city. The increased frequency of flights comes as a welcome move, aiming to bolster connectivity between Chennai and the Tamil-dominated Jaffna city. The Union Minister of Civil Aviation announced this exciting development during the Travel Agents Association of India's annual convention held in Colombo earlier this month. Starting from Sunday, the Jaffna International Airport welcomed the inaugural flight from Chennai, marking the beginning of daily flights on this route.
Vacancies for women from Deshak Sri Lanka for housekeepers, home cooks, caretakers and home nurses in Kuwait, Oman, Saudi Arabia and Singapore for ages 23 to 57 years. Salaries starting from 156,000 rupees. Interviews with foreign agents are now on. Come whether you have a passport or not. Branches, Colombo, Kurunagala, Anuradhapura and Matara. Contact number 037 500 500.
We take a look at sports news. Dhananjay De Silva hit 122 runs before Pakistan bowled out the hosts for 312 on day 2 of the opening test today. De Silva moved from his overnight 94 to register his 10th test century in his 50th match to bolster Sri Lanka's position after a top-order collapse on a rain-hit first day in Galle. The second day's play began early with revised timings for each of the 3 sessions, and De Silva soon got to his 100 off-pace spearhead Shaheen Shah Afridi. Vishwa Fernando made an unbeaten 21. That was sports news.
Go ekakthiyana youth ekata life eke change ekata niyameta set wenna as wahagena dakapu hina habe karanna youth ekata niyameta set wenna friendship eka menna.
The all-new NSB Ithru account, NSB IAM, a plan for your dream.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Usually iPhones plummet in value as soon as you take them out of the shop. But there are some special cases, as seen at an auction in the US, where the first edition unopened 4GB model sold for $190,372. Not many of these were made at the time, leading the model to be considered the holy grail by iPhone collectors. The lot, run by LCG Auctions, attracted 28 bids in total and sold at nearly 400 times its original price. The final fee includes the administration costs on top of the hammer price paid to the auction house by the buyer, known as a buyer's premium. The buyer's premium goes directly to the auction house and not to the seller.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Go ekakthiyana youth ekata life eke change ekata niyameta set wenna as wahagena dakapu hina habe karanna youth ekata niyameta set wenna friendship eka menna.
The all-new NSB Ithru account, NSB IAM, a plan for your dream.
And now in economic news.
Youth unemployment in China has hit a new record high as the country's post-pandemic recovery falters. The jobless rate of 16 to 24-year-olds in the urban areas rose to 21.3% last month, official figures show. It comes as the world's second-largest economy grew just 0.8% in the 3 months to the end of June. Analysts say the weak pace of growth has raised expectations that authorities may soon announce new measures to boost the economy.
Weather report.
And finally, we take a look at the weather report. Several spells of showers will occur in the western, Sabaragamuwa and northwestern provinces and in the Kandy, Nuwara Eliya and Mathura districts. Showers or thundershowers may occur at a few places in the Uva province and in the Ampara and Batticaloa districts during the evening or at night. To end tonight's news broadcast, the headlines again. Motion to appoint select committee to investigate infringement of parliamentary privileges. Pakistan PM thanks Sri Lankan President for support in IMF deal. 5-member committee has been appointed to look into health sector issues. More than 500,000 hectares of paddy fields cultivated in the early season due to the government's new fertilizer policy. Commissioner General of Motor Traffic said that the new driving licenses can now be obtained without delay. Over 29,000 people applied to get passports online within a month. In foreign news, South Korea tunnel horror brings home climate fears, and in sports news, Pakistan bowl out Sri Lanka in the second day of the first test. That ends tonight's news broadcast. The time reads 1.5 minutes past 9 o'clock. This is Radio Sri Lanka.